And eventually, like the Royals, they all come up together and form a good team.
Yeah, and you forgot Chris Carter. All he does is hit home runs. He bats around 200, but he'll hit you 30 home runs.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Okay, guys, we'll let you go.
Hey,
Thanks
thanks for
Colin.
calling.
Good night.
Yeah, take
Thanks.
care, guys.
See ya.
Good show.
Thanks a lot.
keep those calls coming. 527-6449. Be on the best
Well,
Sports
the other
Show in
thing that's
Franklin
happening,
County.
too, they were talking about this today, is that there's only about 3 or 4 teams that are really sellers. If you think about it, Oakland, Colorado, Phillies,
Milwaukee.
Milwaukee, you don't have a lot.
And that's the thing in the American League East. Our common theme here so far tonight is they're all in contention, so they're not going to be selling anybody off. And I just think a guy like Cole Hamels, again, our theme of the night, the Red Sox are not the only team calling, who's a Ruben, I can't remember.
Amaro.
Ruben Amaro Jr., the GM of the Phillies. Everybody's calling to get Hamels now.
They see. I think what Amaro's probably doing. He's saying, you know what? We don't need your best prospects if you take Ryan Howard with you.
Yeah, exactly.
Wouldn't they love to get rid of that guy?
If you take somebody, if you take Papelbon, of course, Papelbon now is down to the last year on his contract.
Last year?
So we will only, because like if the Red Sox call up right now, they want the Red Sox top 2 prospects and then 2 other good guys.
If I'm the Red Sox, Phillies, what do you want? Do you tell us who you want and
Well,
we'll send them to you tomorrow?
It's not like the Red Sox are scrimping. I mean, they got over $190 million payroll. They just stink.
David, and again, I'm not an expert in the American League. I wish we'd talk more National League, but I realize we live in the American League area. But it wouldn't surprise me if the Astros stayed in contention. There is a team with some young ball players, okay? And I've watched the Phillies quite a bit in the last couple weeks. They got some really nice young ball players on the team that people have never heard of. If they can get rid of the Utleys, the Howards, the Papelbons, the Ruiz, they will rebuild into a really good team, and they're not afraid to spend money.
Well, they make money. Philadelphia is a major market.
Yes.
They're a money-making team.
Yep.
They got caught. See, they did something that Bill Belichick never gets caught doing. They kept their guys a year too long, and when Belichick gets rid of them a year too early.
They, and as bad as the Phillies are, their payroll this year is $136 million.
See, that's not that
because
bad.
of all these veteran players that they have. I'm just checking right now their attendance. Okay, they're averaging 26,000, and they're always a top 5 team. Citizens Park, they usually sell out, but nobody's going now to watch these guys play. So, but again, I'll repeat myself. The Red Sox aren't great. The Yankees aren't great. The Jays aren't great. The O's aren't great. But they're all in contention. Every game is meaningful. And it's going to be a fun season.
Yeah, it is.
It's going to be a frustrating season.
That's been the word for me. Hockey, right. Washington at the Cubbies is MLB tonight, 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
I'll watch some of that game.
Yeah.
Now, let's see. Where else can we go?
And what about NBA playoffs? We don't even touch.
That's going to be a great final.
You know, we talk about it totally accurately how the Stanley Cup. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, that's such a war to win the Stanley Cup. Boy, winning the NBA championship, that's not exactly a walk in the park.
No.
That is pretty tough also.
I'm telling you.
Did you see Stephen Curry? Did you see his injury?
No.
When he flipped.
That brought me back to covering an NC State game when David Thompson,
I remember.
one of your greatest college.
Yep.
I was covering that game.
1974.
He's like up around the top of the basket doing something. I don't know if he hit somebody, but he just fell. He looked like about 15 feet under the back of his head. They carted him out of there. I mean, this is at NC State, the old Reynolds Coliseum, I think. I mean, everybody's like gasping, totally freaked. And like late in the second half, he walked back in with his head bandaged to a huge cheer from the crowd.
Yeah.
Boy, Stephen, that was a little scary.
I think was he the MVP this year, right?
He was
Out of
MVP.
What school, Duke?
No, his brother ended up transferring to Duke. Oh, Stephen went to Davidson.
Davidson, exactly.
His
Now,
brother transferred to Duke.
I think this final, and I realize nobody watches the NBA, and I will
I've
watch
been
the
giving it
final.
a little attention.
I think the Cavs and the Warriors are
That's a
playing
pretty-
Game 5. They should end it tonight against Houston. I think that is going to be
It's a good-
one of the
that's a good
all-time great
finals. I'll
finals.
pay some attention
and
to that.
the Cavs struggled most of the year, and I hate to point fingers. Actually, I do like to point fingers. Did this team improve after Kevin Love got injured during the Celtics series?
I've almost
He's
forgotten.
out for
That's
the year.
interesting. They certainly have made use of some players I
Right.
haven't
Yeah.
even heard much
They
about.
seem to be getting along
J.R.
better.
Smith had those. J.R. Smith.
They picked up
had that one
mid-season.
game.
He's pitching
He went crazy with threes
And
one game.
The Cavs traded for Kevin Love. He had 1 year remaining on his contract with Minnesota, and they gave up the kid, #1 overall pick from Kentucky, and I can't hasn't Anthony somebody,
Not Mr. Bow. Not.
and I think I can't. But they gave up a lot to get Love, and we basically thought they'd win 70 games this year. Kevin Love didn't see the ball as
Didn't
much.
look like it
When
was
you
a
got-
good fit.
When you got Kyrie Irving and you got a guy named LeBron James, you're not going to touch the ball as much as you did with Minnesota.
LeBron's uneven when he. I mean, LeBron's is
And
unreal.
I think you and I talked about LeBron, how he ranks of the all-time greats.
Well, I think he's right.
Where
right
Michael
up
Jordan,
there.
his biggest critic said he touched the ball too much, and the critics on LeBron is he's too much of a team player.
But,
I
it's still,
don't
but he
think-
still seems like LeBron is prepared to do what he's got to do to.
I think
to have those guys
LeBron
win.
could take the three of us and go to the NBA Finals.
I do too.
LeBron and the Three Musketeers. LeBron James, I think,
He is
is
unreal.
the best athlete in professional sports today.
Yeah.
I wouldn't disagree.
Yeah. And I will watch, and I haven't watched an NBA
You know,
Finals
the
in years.
Cavs got to break the final. I guess when you love how these
8 games.
They should get it
8
done
days
before
off,
July.
yeah.
Wow.
The finals start next Thursday, a
Really?
week from tomorrow night. But good news, especially for Kyrie. I think they can definitely use Kyrie, who played some last game, but a week off should do him a lot of good.
Yeah.
That should be a very good finals.
Yeah. So,
That'll be fun.
yeah.
But that's a battle. I mean, anybody who wins the NBA championship, that's pretty impressive too, I think.
Yeah. And if once the finals is done, the NBA draft coming up, and your boy Justice
Sounds like my guy.
Winslow.
No,
he-
Justice is coming on.
He's like a number 5 or 6 overall
good.
pick.
In fact,
all
I'd
of
be
19 years old.
I mean, I like our center. You know, Okafor is good, but he just doesn't. I tend to buy in. He'll be a decent pro. He's got amazing footwork, but defensively, even Coach K, Colin Cowherd on ESPN keeps playing his interview with Coach K. When Coach K definitely didn't send put this guy in the Hall of Fame. Said he's got a lot of work to do. He's a good player, but I think the Kentucky guy will be the #1
Well,
pick.
who's picking one? I can't remember who won the lottery.
It was
Is it Minnesota? Okay.
Minnesota.
From what I've read, and it's been Towns from Kentucky.
Yeah, that's what it
And
sounded
when
like.
Kyle Lumsden was on the show a month or so ago, we basically agreed, not that I'm a big-time college expert,
Yeah.
that Towns did nothing to enhance his value, but Okafor didn't look great
He
during.
never lost. He just
Right.
had 10 points.
And
stuff.
we kind of thought he slid below Towns.
He's got amazing hands, amazing
But-
footwork. He's 7 feet, but he's got a ways to go.
But what the team needs,
Yeah.
it appears that Minnesota needs Okafor
Oh, is that
more
right?
than a
More
guy
than the
like
other guy?
Towns.
Oh, yeah.
And the Lakers are salivating to get Towns. The Lakers have the #2 pick in the draft.
Interesting. But yeah, Justice Winslow has come on and Ty. I mean, I'll never forget. I mean, obviously the Dukies win a championship. Tyus Jones and Grayson Allen. I mean, 2 freshman kids. I mean, these guys were unbelievable. Tyus has got as much heart as anybody as a young kid, but I'll be interested to see where he ends up. The Celtics obviously might be. I guess they wouldn't need Tyus, I guess.
The talk with the Celtics
Yeah.
is Bobby Portis
Oh, yeah.
out of Arkansas.
Okay.
So, but like I said, I'll wait till the finals get done, then I'll bore everybody with, all these 19-year-olds going out in the draft. They barely shave.
Yeah.
And it's so funny. A lot of these guys being drafted here in a few weeks, they were still in high school as we speak last year, and here they are in a few weeks being.
Yeah.
They've
drafted.
got to fix that one and done business.
God, I wish they could have gotten 2. There was some talk for a while about 2 years, and that's gone.
Well, the thing is that the NCAA has a new president, and I think he's from Northwestern.
Huh.
And he's saying now we got to stop being a minor leagues for the NFL
That's
and the
obviously
NBA,
what they
and
are.
let's just start working for what we need. Because even Calipari hates a one and done.
Yeah.
Uh,
I mean, Coach K, I can't imagine he loves it. I mean, imagine getting these good players that you have for at least a couple
Dude,
years.
if I'm
Why
Kelly,
would you want any kid to leave
if,
after
I'm-
1
okay,
year?
if I'm Coach K,
Yeah.
you see a kid like Okafor, who's a decent player. I still
decent.
consider him raw, and as he should be. He's only 19 years old. But if I'm a coach, my ego says, I'm one of the best coaches in the world. I'm going to take this Okafor. I'm going to spend 4 years with this kid, and by the time he's 22 years old, he's going to light the world on fire. And he doesn't. Coach K doesn't have a chance to coach.
Well, I mean, he's got a year. I suspect. I think he had a very tight relationship with Jabari Parker and stuff. You know, I mean, I'm sure these kids get a fair amount out of a year, but they're dealing with reality. I
Yeah.
can't blame them for
Yeah.
that.
well, and even when you go back to Doc Rivers' kid,
Austin.
he should have hung around for at least another year.
Seems
I don't
like he
think
could
his
make that
NBA
case.
career's been anything stellar.
No.
Nope, he had some good games and stuff, but no, it hasn't.
When
been
was the
stellar.
last time one of these young guys left that's really been lights out, super duper?
Well, I'm
The last really good guy was LeBron.
Kyrie Irving's done
not
a
sure.
nice
Yeah,
job.
I mean, Kyrie's
when
been pretty
Irving
good.
got drafted, what, 4 years ago, maybe now? Yeah, I remember talking to Duke about him. I said, who in
After
the,
his illustrious
right? I
college
said, who
career.
in the hell is Kyrie Irving? I'd love to make a comment. He played a total, I believe, 9 games
Yeah.
at Duke. He got hurt, and he was the
But
number
the-
1 pick by Cleveland.
But for the record, he had come on big time. Like I started, I was hearing a lot of stuff. Just his senior year in high school, he was opening a ton of eyes and stuff.
Well,
I
the
mean,
truth be told, the only reason he went to Duke is because you have to play 1 year of college now in order to.
Yeah.
They don't let high schoolers in
But
anymore.
he was becoming highly touted, and whoever those folks were right on. I mean, he was.
I don't know why they don't let guys go straight to the NBA. It didn't hurt LeBron any.
There were a lot of people that we've never heard of. Like, you watch the draft, a lot of these high schoolers were getting picked in the second round. I mean, the top-notch guys obviously were picked in the top 10, but they were still guys picked, and they didn't obviously have a good education.
Moses Malone.
They didn't make it right. They're guys. Kevin Garnett never.
KG.
Well,
Never
the thing is,
It's tough. I
Daryl
had
Dawkins,
mixed feelings.
remember the
Yeah.
Chocolate Thunder? He never went to.
these guys should not be going to college in the first place. These guys, but only a few make it. I mean, it's many are called, few are chosen. It's it's the survival of the fittest and a lot of the jungle out there, and so these guys, and I would rather see a guy go to college. If he's going to be in the NBA, go to NBA. And then the NBA has a development league. Let the guy play in the minors for a couple years, just like they do in baseball.
It's hard to get into their mindset. I just feel like a kid like Tyus Jones, he just looks like a good guy. Obviously, never met him, but and I suspect he's probably having a good time or had a good time at Duke. I would guess. I just kind of feel bad. Again, I don't have the mindset of a future pro player, but I mean, I know what college meant to me. I just feel a little bad. These guys don't get a couple of kind of fun, good years before,
But
boy,
dude,
they were in
let's be
such a
honest.
pressure situation.
How many classes once
Hockey
Duke
asked
won
me
the
that.
tournament? Okafor went to, Winslow
None,
went to.
none.
I can't answer the question, but I think it might.
Do you think they went to their finals for their freshman year?
These
Absolutely
guys,
not.
I think these guys hung in for their year, but I'm not there. I don't know.
I think all of these schools, even Duke, even Harvard, any of them, when these guys get to the pinnacle of the NCAAs, when you are at the top, there is nothing that supersedes that. There's
No, I'm
no
sure you're right about
schoolwork.
that.
There's no nothing.
Let me ask you about Harvard. Is it Tommy Amaker, the head coach
Yes.
of Harvard? Okay, Harvard. A child of 3 will tell you Harvard is
It's a premier school. It's a
the
top.
pinnacle of the world. Harvard. Everybody knows Harvard. Okay.
Well, actually, I think.
Let me ask you this: do you think Tommy Amaker knows the GPAs of all his kids. I bet those kids go to class,
Yeah,
David.
so he absolutely.
And
it's-
they have a top-notch
Tommy's wife.
program.
Tommy's wife, for the record, I think, is on the faculty of Harvard.
Okay.
Yeah, I bet Tommy's got a
There's
totally.
there
good
is
handle
a
on that.
lot of
But,
undercurrent.
yeah, no, he got a little grief. Harvard got some grief for.
Did they?
Tommy,
Yeah.
boy, Tommy, you guys are letting up a little bit, but you know, you're not going to convince me any kid on that team is anything resembling a dummy. But yeah, they might have gotten a few kids in who were.
Oh, I bet you.
I don't think these are stupid. I don't think these are
Well,
any
I
stupid
talked to
kids,
somebody.
though.
Bowdoin
But
up
yeah,
in
that was a bit of an issue.
Bowdoin up in Maine is one of the toughest
It's a premier
schools
school.
Great
to
It's a-
get
school.
into
Great
the country.
school.
Bowdoin is tough.
Great
and I asked
school.
this guy, I said, well, how do you get hockey players? They have a decent D3 program, not great, decent. And he told me that they kind of look the other way for about 5 or 6 hockey players. They'll let a guy in of 2.5.
I can tell
I
you.
bet they're not going to let in a real stupid kid, though,
Not
who they.
stupid, but somebody
I'll
that can
tell you
write his
what,
name.
The better you play, the better level of player you are, the less smart you need to be.
Yeah, probably
And-
right about that.
Hey, when Emmy was looking at schools, and she was recruited a little bit by the coach at Williams. Now, Williams
Tough school.
is the toughest
God.
school to get into right now. It's almost impossible.
My father went to Wesleyan, a fellow little 3
That's
school.
a NESCAC
That's
school?
NESCAC.
Williams, Amherst, Wesleyan.
They're
yeah,
even
great
harder
schools.
than Ivy Leagues because they only have 2,000 kids to go, so you only have
Great.
500.
Great schools.
And out of 500, I'm sure the athletic departments, because they have about 40 interscholastic sports,
Really.
the athletic departments probably have 150 or 200 set spots.
Huh.
So that, and then you have your legacies and your George Steinbrenners. I'm sure if George Steinbrenner's grandson wants to go to Williams,
Yep.
he can have a 2-0. He's going
Yep.
to Williams
Yep.
because George Steinbrenner gave him $50 million.
Yep.
So, to get back, I remember talking to the hockey coach, and he said, "Well, Emmy's still, our SATs aren't quite as high as what we'd like, because the average SAT at Williams back then was 1,500 out of 1,600."
I'm surprised it wasn't even higher.
Well, that's because they let in all of these other guys that don't have.
Because obviously they could pick all 1,600 kids if they wanted.
I bet Emmy had at least a 3.95 at BFA.
Well, Emmy had a 4.17.
there you go. There you go.
And she was, but her SATs weren't that big. They were about 13 something.
David,
Now-
just one quick point on SATs. I've met a lot of really smart kids, and for whatever reason, they don't score as well as they should.
Well, some kids don't
whether
test
it's
well.
the pressure of the SAT and all that. But I hate 12 years of education and extracurricular activities be based on one testing.
Well, the thing is with the SAT,
Don't they give them a little less weight these days, or no? They're still.
no.
Joanne she's coughing out curricular
No.
content.
The SAT is the one thing that they can compare all the guys to.
So that's still.
And
hugely
they all say,
important.
"Oh no, extracurriculars, it is none of that." If you don't have the SATs,
Well, David, can I
You
ask you
aren't
a
in.
question?
All right.
I love the topic.
But yeah,
Ron.
Hawk.
Say
some kids don't test well.
Say the Duke is a 4.17. Duke goes to school every day. Duke's a nerd. Duke goes back home in his bedroom and studies and does extra stuff. But Dave, who's a 4.05, goes to school, goes to hockey practice after that. He's got a student council meeting to go to. He'll do a car wash and blah, blah, blah. And Duke, being the extra studied guy, will score, 1550. You'll get a 1450. All that you did in high school,
doesn't mean anything.
extracurricular activities.
Throw it
this long,
away.
student council president,
Throw it away.
hockey player,
Throw it
baseball
away.
player, football player.
Means
and
nothing.
Duke goes home and eats a whoopie pie, picks his nose, and you know what I'm saying?
Throw it away.
So Duke's the man.
Duke, and either Duke or me won't get in if we're from the wrong, if we're white, middle class, and we don't have some sort of pull to get in.
I'll always be, I'm kind of on this same subject, I'll always be a little bitter about Middlebury because of Ian, my kid's sister, Caroline Bright, the former Miss Vermont,
Right.
former state Senate candidate, MVU grad, might not have been the top of her class, but way up there.
Her
But
extracurriculars.
good, good records. But she had a couple of, maybe she had a C in there or something. Wanted to go to Middlebury, where her mother went, where her father went. Jim Douglas happened to read the governor's letter of recommendation. That's probably saying no, Middlebury guy. But her, her resume. She was on the governor, Jim Douglas's,
Yep, I remember.
Next Generation Commission, the one teenager on that. I mean, she had a resume that a lot of adults would kill for.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But because she had maybe a not good grade or two, she didn't get in. I mean,
Hey,
that blows my
I
mind.
agree with you.
They what's
Insane.
happened with these guys, these big colleges, the big name brands. There's been application inflation, and then you have all of this to be in the U.S. News and World Report top 10 most selective schools. Well, what happens is now that everybody can just hit a thing and send your application all over the place.
You can do that.
There's a zillion applications.
But don't you have to pay
Oh yeah, it's like $100, $200, whatever it
to
costs.
apply to a school?
But what's happened is the fancy schools, they're like a private club, and they aren't going to let you in. And they don't care. They don't care. Do you know how many valedictorians get turned away by Harvard and Yale and all that? A pile.
They could fill up every slot with.
So unless they want you, you aren't getting in. And what they do now is they had these numerical quotas, and they say, look, we need to have so many Africans, we need to have so many Asians, we need to have so many.
Let me
this, so many
stop
of
you
that.
right here. But didn't we talk, maybe we didn't last week, there were some Asians suing Berkeley because they've kind of cut them off, the Asians at 20%. They had too many Asians in their grades. And it's well known, it's not a racial thing, that American Asians are the top students.
Asian
in the-
American
Asian
kids
Americans. Right.
Sure,
And there are certain schools saying we got too many Asians, American Asians in there.
I don't think
And
we talked
there's
about
been
that.
some lawsuits going on by saying, look, you're discriminating against me
We've-
because I'm an American Asian and I'm not black.
What we've done with this whole mixing and trying to get better balance. UVM tries it. All the schools, like Brown last year, because goes to Brown. 45% of their kids are that they accepted were kids of color.
What percent?
45.
Is that right?
All right, or minorities or something. And what we've done is what we're doing now is, and I hate to give any credence to what Peter Martin said when he called up a few weeks ago. In that, but basically, what we've done is we are reversing. We're reversing evolution, because instead of having a survival of the fittest, what we're doing is we are putting weaker instead. And now, to be honest, colleges have never always been about taking the brightest and the best. When Woodrow Wilson went to Princeton, a lot of the kids that went to Princeton weren't the smartest. They weren't the best kids of their era either. They were their parents were captains of industry, and it was a private club, and you wanted to get your kid into that club. It had nothing to do, but what they're getting now is some backlash at these premium schools, because some of the kids that belong in there, that are in there, resent the fact that some of these guys get in just because they're a woman or heterosexual or homosexual or this sexual or that kind of thing.
Yep.
And now it's even gotten even crazier, because now with this ranking and with, like, I forget, Stanford took 1% of the applicants.
1%, 1 out of 100.
1 out of 100.
Is Stanford's nickname the Harvard of the West?
And
In fact, you might even flip that around. Harvard these days might be the Stanford.
well, they.
Duke always used to get.
I'll tell you, a
Harvard
harder
of the Sound.
school to get into than Harvard is Washington and St. Louis. Washington
right?
University, smaller
Good
school, premium, super high end.
Yeah.
There are a whole pile of those out there, but they have to have so many of this, so many of that, so many of those, and what happens is they say, okay, well, all you smart guys, we don't need you.
Hey, quick question for you. As the colleges are looking at these applicants and these good schools could take, are they also looking at financial stuff? Hey, this guy can pay full load. Does that come in? Does that come into
What
play or
happens
not?
is if your folks, or if your dad's a doctor,
Yeah.
I think you got a better chance of getting in.
Just because
Just
they're
because they
not gonna have
know
to
they're
pay-
going to get not the money, that they know that when a kid graduates, they're going to be able to get alumni because these guys wanted to perpetuate this thing. Harvard has an endowment of 36 or 48 or some crazy $1 billion.
Yeah.
It's unreal.
They could let everybody in for free.
Yeah.
But I know there are some folks resent of the high percentage of out-of-state students that go to UVM. Of course, they pay triple the amount to go. And they pay the
that's
bills.
why they want them.
Without them, Vermont kids would be paying.
It would be
God
that much
knows,
more.
That much
Yeah.
more. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, what's happening is because of this great inflation, this whole thing, a lot of these really, really smart kids, which should be going to these premium schools, are going to the next level down.
Well, let me ask you a question though. The student population has gone drastically down in the last
Well, when
20
you say
years.
student population in I think like high school, I'm not sure the college
Colleges is still,
But I
colleges
heard,
are
I
harder to
heard
get
and
in
read
now.
that there's a lot of competition for schools to get students because the student population isn't as great today.
No, because you're also competing. You got kids coming in from all over the world now,
Okay.
and
But you're right. There are fewer. Presumably there are
students.
fewer U.S. high school students trying to get into college. Presumably those numbers are down.
I've
some.
had a lot of guys like Duke tell me, like, my dad was great friends with Phil Hoff. Phil Hoff went to Williams.
Oh, is that right? You went to Williams?
Yep. Phil wrote a beautiful letter for Emmy
Oh, is that right? That's nice.
and did absolutely no good.
Like I said, Jim Douglas wrote a
Same
great
thing.
letter for Caroline.
It's got nothing to do with it.
Um,
And the thing is, these guys and guys like yourselves would have a much tougher time getting in these schools today than it was.
No, Dave, I've made that comment a million times. Duke would get I would be my application would be tossed out so quickly with the same. It'd be a joke.
They and then what's happening too is they've got neighborhoods in Washington D.C. and some of these high-end places, probably like where I was last weekend at Briarcliff, where unless you're a kid, you don't want your kid, if he goes to James Madison or UVA or one of those schools, life is over for them because they didn't get in an Ivy League school, they didn't get in an SCAC.
Had I not gone to Duke, I would have gone UVA. Would have been where I would have gone. Would have been a nice place to go.
So because, but
Boy,
this
thank God
whole-
I'm not trying to get into college these days.
this whole thing, and what we're basically doing is we're saying it's okay. We don't need to take the smartest and the best, but in sports, God forbid, Duke and Harvard, if they got a guy that can't walk and chew gum, but he can dunk a basketball, we're going to get him because we want the best, absolute best basketball players. But when it comes to recruiting students, they aren't recruiting the best and the smartest anymore.
And there's also a correlation with, like, Duke University. That name in Kentucky is mentioned all the time on TV, right? Newspapers, internet.
Well, they hate Duke.
And
I should do a
they have
column.
broken it down,
A
David.
Dookie and a Patriot fan.
To-
The percentage of the world that hates me for hates. the
Oh,
teams
you're
I love.
99.8% of the people.
David, the amount of money that Duke gets publicity with their name just be constantly mentioned that, and I saw a year or
Just to
so
say
ago,
the
they
10
spend,
mil- the
they
10
spend
mil they pay
millions
Coach
of dollars
K.
on recruiting, believe it or not, like
Oh.
they have to. But their sports budget is so huge, and they say, big deal. The amount of publicity we get, this is only a small percentage.
Again, I
if
think-
we went to Madison Avenue to buy this publicity, we'd be paying 20-fold.
Which is why the 10 mil they pay Coach K, who I think is the highest paid by a few million, maybe college.
He gets 10
coach.
million a
He
year?
gets about 10 mil for his various stuff. But I mean, you know,
He's not coaching a golf team either.
they can't pay him enough, probably,
Yeah.
just for the publicity.
so-
I think he does stuff like at the business school, you know, but
He
yeah,
probably
but-
doesn't teach phys ed and
Golf
coach
coach.
softball.
Golf coach. So David, I'm going to show you what a host does to a segue. Speaking of college, I got my letter from AD Robert Korn
Don't
from
tell me,
UVM.
don't tell me the price is going up
The
again.
price of the hockey ticket, which is $22, is going up to $23.
Is that right?
And I told my wife, if you're going to raise the ticket price, why do you even bother raising it
You know
a
what
dollar?
I'd do if I were those
Raise
guys?
it-
I'd say
Make it
we're gonna-
25
we're
bucks.
right. We're going to keep it even for the next year. Then we're going to go to 25, like in 2 years or something.
Yeah, yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
Is that right? They're going up a dollar.
And for their premium games like North Dakota, which is one of the
premium
top,
games?
right? They're going to be charging $25 a game to get into.
Really?
Yeah, for the tickets that haven't been sold. So you want to go see the North Dakota
okay.
Fighting Sioux?
Okay, but your ticket 23 for every
That
game.
the season ticket holder will be 23 for the
Gotcha.
whole schedule.
No, that's not.
So-
You know that a lot of schools probably
Yeah,
do that.
and not that I will get into it, but I'm just getting a feeling that
Dr. Bomb, of course, had encouraging news about the new arena, right? Did he got into that? I'm sure.
he
right?
did not. But I'm telling you right now, I'm predicting we will hear something by Christmas.
Really? You think?
Yes, I do.
It's amazing how that story gets just
I
no
know.
attention.
Duke,
Well-
Duke, let me tell you something.
Imagine if this was Boston. I mean, God.
Duke, if you watch the first show we ever did, March of 2003,
Yeah.
I was talking
good
about
show. I
it.
thought it was a good
I was
show.
talking a new arena back then.
All right.
I was basting him. Well, Duke, you're nuts. We'll get UVM football
Right,
before
and of course
Walmart ever
football.
opens up.
Right.
He was just calling me crazy for years, and of course,
Well, I was had the good fortune to I spent the all day Saturday with Frank Coffey, and of course Frank's on the board at
At
UVM,
UVM.
and we had a lot of free time. And
This
we
is his
were,
cousin Robert. There is
well,
Robert.
Robert's
still?
done now,
Oh, is that right?
and
Frank's
David,
still
did
on.
you ask about the arena?
so we talked some about the arena. The trouble with the arena is those things are so expensive to run that
Yes, they
you
are.
can't have any debt service. So what they're trying to do is they are hoping that they might actually have donors enough to pay for that
to pay for it with
Yeah.
no debt service?
with no debt service.
What are we talking for a price tag?
Wow.
75 mil or am I
Oh
low?
yeah, it's-
They were talking initially about 115 million, but I think they scaled it down maybe around 75 million. But
right.
but you know what? You say 75, it'll be 95.
But
It
if
always
they
happens.
see if you don't have any debt service, then UVM doesn't need to get a minor league team to fill it. They don't need to do all that other stuff. They can afford with the games to pay for the heat and the light.
But are you telling me so the hope is that they're actually gonna raise this money?
Yeah.
Boy, there's been amazing how they keep this so unbelievably quiet.
Hey, there are so many. The rich guys today, just as Bernie Sanders, the rich guys today are so rich that it's not tough if you can get the right guys. You know, 50 million, 100 million, the right, it's chicken
But that
feed.
begs the question, does UVM, I mean, Hawk says that all the time. How about some good rich UVM donors?
Hey,
Are
it's
there?
not any different than Chip
people?
Kenyon giving $20 million to
Middlebury's got it.
Middlebury for that rink. He paid for it all
Have you
by
ever been to
himself.
Middlebury, Duke? To the arena down there?
I guess I've been to the art museum. I don't think I have.
I've got
walked
to.
into
I've
the-
got to take you to Middlebury game.
Love to go.
And there's a restaurant.
It's really
I can't remember
nice,
the
huh?
name of it. It's got great chicken and biscuits.
Some
in
good
Middlebury,
restaurants
too.
in the middle.
Well,
Fire
like
and Ice.
Kreitzberg, the Kreitzberg now, Kreitzberg's didn't pay for every last thing because I know a lot of people bought seats and things.
But they paid
But
for.
Kreitzberg probably paid
All right.
the lion's share of it.
Yeah. So
Well, I hope these UVM people exist. Obviously.
Oh, I think there's
Yeah.
enough rich guys. Hey, all it takes is you take. I'll give you an example of a company, and I know nothing about them. I'm just throwing it out there. Take like a dealer.com. All right,
These
they
guys
just
have
got
done
sold
pretty
for
well,
$1 billion.
All right, $1 billion.
100.
did they really?
Yeah, I think they had an IPO or something. They got sold out.
Huh.
I could be wrong, but there are a lot of those startups that get sold for massive, massive money. So all of a sudden now you're a guy like Mark Cuban.
Yep.
Mark Cuban had nothing, and then
Yep.
he was on the .com. So if you're on the right side of one of these things, you got 500 billion. You could give 50 away, or not 500 billion, 500 million.
Yeah.
I mean, 50 billion, $50 million. That's
David,
not
No,
that
you're right.
much.
If you have megabucks,
If I was a half a billionaire, I would give UVM $100 million, build an arena, name it after myself. I'd have a skybox right at center ice
and change the sports teams to the night and make them go from the Catamounts to the Nighthawks.
to the Nighthawks. There you go. I hadn't
Okay.
give that any thought, but that's not a bad idea.
So no, there's and you don't need one guy. I've about 3 guys giving 25 million each.
yeah, yeah.
I
I just hope these people with UVM connections or whatever support exists.
Duke, speaking of Catamount, I've been meaning to ask
So
this for
23 bucks a ticket,
for
huh?
50 years plus. UVM Catamounts. There aren't any Catamounts in the state of Vermont.
You have people
You
who
know,
claim they see them, but not,
I
not,
would like
not confirmed.
to get a nickname that kind of means something to a team, like the St. Louis Blues. You know what I mean? Like, here's a team with the worst nickname in the world, the Los Angeles Lakers. They were formerly known as the Minneapolis
Minneapolis
Lakers,
Lakers.
the land of 1,000 lakes, right? Minnesota.
10,000 likes.
Okay. New England Patriots. What a great nickname. Okay, Patriot.
Fitting nickname.
Vermont Catamounts, that's the best we could do. How about, something like the Vermont Maple Leafs?
And I've told you, Hockey, I've mentioned this a number of times. Who are the only other Catamounts that I'm aware of out there in college
East
land?
Carolina, I think, is a
Wrong
team.
part of the
Western
state,
Kentucky?
Western Carolina.
Western Carolina.
Beautiful Colorway, beautiful place out in far western. In
Now,
the
isn't
mountains.
that our old
that's
friend
the,
Jack Liggett went there?
Think so.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think he's
He was he played sports
And ended up at
before
Clemson.
my
Yeah,
era.
ended up
now
at Clemson.
Clemson. It's
Yeah.
still at
Yeah.
Clemson?
yeah. So, just
Or Catamount.
Western Carolina, not Western Kentucky.
Western
a
Carolina.
few other
yeah.
sport tidbits. The Giants, like every other team, started their OTAs.
OTAs.
So their offensive line, Dave, as of today, Eric Flowers did in fact line up at left tackle. Justin Pugh, our former right tackle, is at left guard. Weston Richburg's at center. Big John Jerry, remember him, number 77? He's at right guard. And free agent pickup they got from Green Bay, Marshall Newhouse, is at right tackle. If you think we're going to make the playoffs, my friend, with a offensive line like that,
Not happening.
ain't going to
Look,
happen.
I'm surprised you didn't lead with the FIFA news today.
You know what? That is the top news.
Talk about a bunch of
And it's not
crooks.
only sport news, it's news.
All right,
But I
I'm not
know
on top of that,
that
but,
much about soccer.
Sounds
so.
like all those guys deserve to be
Oh, that whole
in
FIFA
jail
thing-
forever.
The only thing I saw, Duke, was
Rotten.
one guy was getting $6,000 a month for a cat apartment.
for a
no,
cat apartment.
Right, for his cat, an apartment for his cat. So that's pretty much
I should know wicked quickly. The French Open is underway. I haven't seen 1 second, but for a change, the big news here is Rafael Nadal, winner of 9 out of the last 10 French Opens, is like 6th seeded. Just hasn't had a good year, injuries and stuff. And Novak Djokovic going for the French is a one major he hasn't won. He's a big
And
favorite.
your girlfriend, Jeannie Bouchard's been a stinker.
she's having
Is
terrible.
she still there? Or is
She got
gone?
knocked out first round
Is she
again.
really?
She's terrible this year.
Boy,
Just
she-
absolutely.
I-
She did an Alan Craig.
Hilton. I mean Charleston. She got knocked out in the first
Yep,
round.
she's done an Alan Craig.
Is that right? She's done.
Yep. A few minutes left. Golf is really getting into the heart of the schedule right now. We got some big time tournaments in the next few weeks.
talking
Byron
about-
Nelson this weekend.
Okay.
Next weekend, the Memorial.
Can I just mention the Chris Kirk one?
Yes, last week.
Crown.
That last putt, he needed a 7-foot par putt to win it. Guess what that putt was worth? Guess what the difference in? He won about 1.1 million. The 3 guys in second were each about $500,000. That was basically a $700,000 putt.
Who was waiting in the?
Jordan Spieth came in
Tent.
Jordan
second.
Spieth.
Jordan Spieth is waiting in the tent saying miss, miss, miss.
All right, but that's what that putt was worth.
Yeah.
Unreal.
Yeah. So anyway, you got the
Byron Nelson, that's a good one.
Right, Byron Nelson this
US
week.
Open not too far
Memorial
away.
in Dublin, Ohio, which
Wow.
is I think Jack
Jack's
Nicklaus.
baby. Yeah.
St. Jude is big.
One minute.
Then June 18th through the 21st, the U.S.
I think
Open.
that's the first Open out west. Is it the first Open on the West Coast? I think
And I know
Chambers Bay, Oregon.
Chamber Bay.
Huh?
Oh,
Have they
they've
ever been
had
out? Have
they've
they?
been out west.
Oh,
They,
no, they've been Torrey
Olympic Club
Pines.
and
maybe just Oregon or something.
Pebble Beach.
Right, maybe
so-
sorry, maybe just Oregon. Yeah, you're right.
So that is it for our last show in the merry month of May. For Miss Joanne, Dave, Duke, I'm the Nighthawk. Until next week, everyone, remember, you do not have to be a great athlete to be a good sport. See you next week.
Ciao. See ya. Go Dead Sox.
When I say
I work real hard to collect my cash. Tick, 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 take the time. When I'm going for mine. Open your ears and you will hear it. I tell you this cause there's no limit.